this shit back.
Don't stop faking, my conscience ain't afraid of you yet.
The Plot and You has always been a band I've always been a huge fan of since their inception a few years ago. Landon Tewers himself, in my mind, is a musical genius, and it shows with the growth and maturity through each album. It usually takes a few listens for me to completely get over a band's drastic change in sound, but with the Plot and You's latest album, Dispose, it basically took no time at all. But that's not to say that I don't miss their roots. Dispose is the band's fourth full-length album, and it is the first to be released through Fearless Records. Right off the bat, we knew we were going to get something different a few months back when they released the first single off the album titled Feel Nothing. It still had that same edge that most Plot songs do, but it had a little something different, a little bit almost like a pop-esque to it, and we knew that they were probably going to experiment a lot more being on a different label, and we knew that just Landon in general through each album likes to experiment and change it up, so you never really get the same thing. He's constantly evolving as a songwriter, and it definitely shows in Dispose. Dispose kicks off with Rigged, which is perfectly layered. It has Landon's vocals going over top of almost like a pulse, like a heartbeat almost, and it's followed by like layers of static and distortion, and it's just really good in general. The whole track just flows together good, and it almost serves as this album's heaviest track, which I'll get into that more later. This record definitely demonstrates Landon's very, very wide vocal range that he hasn't really displayed in the past records that he's done. Even in his solo work, it's not really that apparent as it is on Dispose. He goes all out with very powerful choruses found in songs like One Last Time, I Always Wanted to Leave, and Not Just Breathing. He also tried some new vocal approaches which I really liked, and it made me go back to a certain track numerous times. The track is called Paid in Full, because his vocals were so different, and he did something different on this that I've never heard him do, that I really thought he was Ollie Sykes from Bring Me the Horizon. I haven't really had to go back into a track to think about if it's one of my favorite vocalists doing something. So it's very surprising to see what he can do with his voice, and it's cool to see that he hasn't shown us his full arsenal yet. The album's whole cinematic backdrop is something I love, and it's something I've always loved about all their albums, whether it be sorrow and despair, whether it be horror and depression. You feel everything. As you listen to a Plot album, you feel everything and you live the album, and Dispose grabs you and doesn't let go. You feel every bit of heartache and pain through Landon's voice, the lyrics. Plot's normally known for their twisted and sadistic lyrics and times of emotion, but this album is just full-on emotion, and really no haunting sound whatsoever is really found except for in the opening track, Rigged. They have like almost a really groovy rock track called The One You Love that just kind of just has your head bopping like this the entire time, and it's just a solid track, and I love the entire flow of it. And then they have the tearjerker called The Sound nearing the end of the record, which literally gave me goosebumps with the saxophone use towards the end of the song. It is maybe one of the highlights of this record in my opinion. And let's not forget the closing track, Disposable Fix, which I've probably listened to a total of like 400 times since this single was released itself. So when, you know, I got my my album to me, I kind of skipped this one a lot, and now that's kind of all that's stuck in my head is that Chan-like kind of guitar riff towards the end of the song, and that's one of the catchiest things on this album is the very last track, and that's kind of usually weird that the last song is the best. I can't say it's the best because this whole album rips hard. This is a record that I'm going to come back to time and time again, and I'm sure I'm going to find something new to appreciate every single time I listen to it because there's just that much hidden in it. I've listened to it every aspect of this album, but there may be a few more things in there that I haven't found yet, and that is something that I think people can admire, that there's so much to be found in this record and so much to be heard, and that is something people should be talking about because this band has been around for years, and they have a fairly big fan base, but I feel like this is going to open up a whole new one for them But hopefully, like I said, it will not stray away the old time fans, because like I said, I really do miss their roots. And then the reason I'm saying that is there is not one heavy song on Dispose, and that is kind of disappointing. So through all the ranting of saying how good this is, I have to give Dispose a 4 out of 5, just because as a longtime fan of this band, and just I'm surprised I accepted the change of the sound as well as I did, because normally I shit all over a band when they change their sound. I did with Crown the Empire. I almost wanted to with Of Mice and Men, but Aaron Pauley pulled it off with vocals. But this is the best transition I've heard. Period. I can't hate on the Plot and You whatsoever, because what they did was completely took what people expected them to do and didn't do it, and threw out something completely different, and it worked. And that's just risky, and I respect them being risky and doing something completely new and different and fresh, and something that really nobody has really heard before. So I cannot wait to see what people think of this record when it drops. It comes out this Friday, so be sure to pick it up. If you have heard it, let me know in the comments what you think, and thank you guys for watching.